Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. This is Jenny Oya with Nuggets and Things. Today, I want to share with you a little story. Um, Years back, maybe about 15 years ago, I was at my place of employment, and my exec called me to the window. He said, "I need you to look out the window because I want you to check these boys out here playing. They're roughhousing." I said, "They're roughhousing." I said, "Okay." So I go to the window and I notice the boys out there playing football. He says, "Yeah, they tackling each other down and they're throwing them. Just snatching them and throwing them down." He says, "That's too rough out there. They're going to somebody get hurt." And I looked at him and I smiled. I said, "No, that's how they play football." He says, "No." He said, "That's just too rough." I says, "In your in your culture, in your community, it may be, but that's how our boys play football." It ain't a tackle, honey. If they can't, snatch you up and slam you on the ground. That's part of that's a tackle to them, right? Our kids, this is how they play in their neighborhood, in their village, honey. They want you to know that's part. That's the best part of the game for them. Knowing they had snatched somebody up and slammed them on the ground. Now they feel like I, I showed them something today, and being able to outrun one another, right? That's how they play. I said, and so if I went out there and told them they cannot play the way they are used to playing because it makes you feel like they're being rough, or it seems to be a little uncomfortable from what you're viewing them. I said, you missed the whole picture of what they're doing because this is how they play, honey. Honey, my boys, who I used to watch them out there in the field playing. Now, because our kids different. We talking about the pretty 70s, 80s, whatever, 80s. And I said they out there playing. It wasn't a game, honey, until somebody got slammed down. Sometimes they were clipping one another. I mean, one time I think my son, somebody clipped him running with the ball, and he ended up on crutches. But now we didn't sue nobody's parents. We didn't get mad. We weren't ready to fight because my child got clipped. That this is how they play, like they play basketball. It wasn't a basketball game unless they was slam dunking on somebody and then talking mad trash. It was that's where we come from now. You know, I mean, most of us. That's how we play. You know, we do the same thing. We play spades. We don't just oh. We make noise, honey. We make noise. It's what we do. It's in us. It's our DNA. We make noise. you know, when you get ready to take a book, bam. You let people know you're getting ready to take some books. Get out of here. We talk, just talk. There's no harm, no foul. And majority of the time nobody's gotten mad and ready to fight because it's just how we play, right? And now you tell me that I cannot play in the way in which I have been taught and trained, then I may feel a little uncomfortable trying to adjust to your way. Isn't it amazing? You know, and it's the same thing about who you are, right? A lot of times, people want to curve you and mold and shape you into somebody who you're not. You know, um, your sister loves to cook. She loves to cook, but that's her. She loves to cook. Another one likes to crochet and knit. That's her. You know, you want to work on cars. Now you can't work on cars now. You're a girl. You need to be in that kitchen, And so you're trying to change their makeup. There's something on the inside that cries out, this is what I want to do. Honey, ain't nothing like a man, honey, that loves to cook in that daggone kitchen. You hear what I'm saying to you? Now, what if they told him he couldn't cook? You can't cook because only women belong in the kitchen. Honey, you would have missed a whole lot of good food, right? Only, you limited people because of the box that sometimes we put ourselves in. And then because we're in it, we want everybody else to be shaped in that same box, right? But honey, there's so much cries out inside of us to be. Uh, you want to be this, you want to be able to do that. But then sometimes we hesitate because we're wondering what somebody else is going to think if we break out of the box. Because the box has been set that we do this. The box has been set that we accomplish that. And I don't want to do that. There's something else that I want to do. But if I do this, it's going to cause a shake in the community. It's going to cause things to quiver because it's away from what people are expecting out of you. But what's crying from inside of you, what is crying out to break out of this box and say, here I am. This is me. This is what I can do. You know what I mean? You watch a child sometimes, they're sitting around in a room and they're waiting on somebody to call on them. Let me do it. Right. But they don't choose that child because they think, they're not ready for this. They're too young to understand that, whatever. And the child is perfect for what you got right there that needs to be done. They're perfect for it. But you overlook them because they don't look the part, or you don't think they're qualified based on whatever it is going on, in your head. You know what I mean? But yet what is crying out on the inside of whoever, it cries out and says, I want to be me. And I want to be happy being me. And I want to do me without having someone, to prejudge me or, condemn me for being just me. We have expectations of people sometimes that's unfair. It's unfair because you want them to be something that you don't want somebody else to create for you, to create a place for you and say, you need to be this or else. All people like this should be doing that. Everybody like this should be doing that. If you're short, you're probably doing this. If you're tall, you do this. If you're dark, you do this. If you're light, no. Then you're putting people in boxes. And those boxes are not fair to anyone because you're limiting people from being themselves and doing exactly what they love to do. And people love to do things. And it's in their DNA before they even got here. They already had that seed that wanted, only the chance to grow. You know what I mean? And become. And we can allow that to happen if we change this mindset that we try to put people in these boxes. Your whole family did this, so you should be doing the same thing. But I don't want to do that. No. It's a family. It's a family trait now. You need to do what, And sometimes people, they do exactly what their parents, friends, professors, whatever, ask them to do, even though it's not in them. It's not what they desire, and it doesn't make them happy. But they're doing it to appease somebody else. And most time, when we're trying to appease others, we don't make ourselves happy. You never hear about so many people who are, in a depressed state and suffering from depression, or sad and lonely because they're doing what someone else expected from them and not what they want to do. People choose people in their life because it's expected of them to choose this person. But in their heart, they prefer to be with that person. But they know that person would never be accepted because of this, that, or the other. And so whatever the seed is inside of us, whoever we are, created to be, it cries out, just let me be. Just let me be what I am supposed to be. I don't care how badly, you want carrots. If you're planting broccoli and you want carrots, unfortunately for you, you're going to get broccoli because that's what you're planting. That's the seed. The seed knows itself and it has its own identity and it will become what it is meant to be. The seed now, not your desires, not your thoughts, not your hopes and your dreams, but the seed, honey, will rise up and be exactly what it's supposed to be. And sometimes it can, make others uncomfortable for you being who you are. I remember going back home a few times and people would always say, girl, you have not changed. And I've said, what are they waiting for me to change from or change to? I mean, what are they expecting from me? I taught my children to dare to be different because I chose to be different. I know that what I chose to do and wanted to do maybe was not the expected in the time frame in which I came in, right? You sometimes you might be before your time because you're doing things that people, I don't know why you want to do that. You should really be doing this, but I don't want to do that. I see myself doing this, right? And sometimes it is not accepted because it is not the generation in which you're in, or it is not the time frame in which you're in. But you should never cheat yourself out of being who you are, because who you are, right? It's always bubbling on the inside of you. It's always ready to, to just exert itself and say, at last, here I am. You know what I mean? How you jump out of a cake and say, I'm here, right? And many times in our life, you know, as we're growing, because the seed has to grow. When it goes in, sometimes you don't know what you put down in the ground. You don't have any idea what it is until it starts to grow, and then when it begins to sprout, then you say, "Oh, that's lettuce. That's tomatoes. That is beans." You know what it is now because now it has sprouted, and it's showing you, indicators, identity marks, whatever, to show you now exactly what it is you have put in the ground. And in our lives, who we are and expect to be is already in us. But we will never achieve that and become that until we, embrace who we are, and not embracing one another or ourselves to, to appease someone else, but it's who you are, honey, you know, and then loving who you are. It it may not be accepted by everyone, but for those that you are meant to meet and to greet, they can't wait for you to get there because you are exactly what they've been looking for. Some people are looking for people to be different because then it says they're okay being different. There are some people who want to be in the background, so they just blend with everything, and that's okay too. But to those of you who know that you are different, you move differently, you think differently, you know, and so because of that, a lot of times you catch a lot of walls, you catch a lot of flack, right? There's nothing sometimes more discouraging than when someone meets you and they see you, they embrace you with a smile on their face. You're just what I'm looking for. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. You got what we need. We just so glad you're here. We're gonna be able to do this now. And you come with answers to problems. You come with, solutions, right? And you come with the joy and the passion that sets fires, right? In others around you. And they're excited about that fire, until the fire begins to burn them. And when the fire begins to burn them, now they no longer want your fire. Because your fire needs to burn everybody else, but you don't need to be burning me. You know what I mean? But fire does not have a perimeter. Fire doesn't, honey. When there's a fire, whatever is close to the fire will feel that heat, because that's what fire does. It brings heat. It brings, it lets you know you're getting warm or sometimes warmer, right? But you can't ask fire to be cold because it makes you comfortable, you know. And sometimes your life, your lifestyle, the way that you do things, the way in which you speak, the way you carry yourself, the things that goes in your head, the places that you want to go, the things that you conjure up, that how you're moving and flowing in this world, ebbing and flowing, how you're doing that, right? It makes other people uncomfortable, or they don't understand you and they're trying to figure you out. And if they can't figure you out, honey, then they will put you out, because then there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you because you're not doing what everybody else is doing, instead of embracing the fact that you are different, but your difference can make a difference in whatever they're doing. You know what I mean? Because everything else is lined up just like this. And you're not lined up, but it's for a reason. So when you go in, you can shake up that line and cause things now to come alive. Because, honey, you can have people lined up, honey, but there's no life in it. Everybody's in there. Yeah. That monotone, nobody's happy. Nobody, but we're here. you know. And I've been in places. I've been in places, honey, and I sat in the midst of people and watched their expression on their faces. And they are a part of a club, an organization, an event. They are a part of it, but there's no joy in them, you know. And when I talk to people, I says, "Oh, that sounds nice. Tell me about it," because I'm interested. Tell me about it. And when they start talking to me about whatever it is they're involved in, the way in which they're expressed, there's no joy coming out of them. There's no fire. It's yeah, well, when we meet every Tuesday, and what we do is I'm like, oh man, if that's what I got to go into on Tuesdays, I prefer not to even be involved, because I believe in life. I believe in life and life giving. I believe we're supposed to, be life sources. We are supposed to, have that life going on inside. That fire burns on the inside of us, right? And if it does, then you need fire. We said metal, iron sharpens iron, and fire will definitely, when it connects to other fire, it will burn a whole lot, deeper, stronger, and hotter, right? So you want to be around like people, people who have, the kind of same, thing that's going with them, to keep you charged. As you're charging others, you want to be charged too, right? So in your life, remember this: who you are is who you've been destined to be, you know, before you even got here. Before you became that seed, you was a thought. You was a thought before you became a seed. And when you became a seed, the thought now comes alive in the seed. And then the seed, when it produces itself and shows itself, you can now see, okay, now I can see how that seed is going to produce this, because it has the ability now to think of where it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to do, right? And all it needs is, the right nutrients, the right people around to encourage and to lift it, and, to embrace it where it is, and it will become so enormous, so big, and it will touch many lives, just because it understands who and what it is. But all it needs is that touch, right? But woe unto someone who sees a life coming forth and desires or chooses to put out the fire, because they realize that fire is could be troublesome. That fire could burn us one day. If we let that fire continue to, to move the way it's moving, it may come back and burn us, right? It may find out what we're doing is not, up to par. And sometimes people are like that. Things happen like that, right? But don't give up on who you are. When you're screaming out, your seed is saying, let me out of this box, let me out of this, this situation, this place, this organization, whatever it is. It's saying, let me out, because I know I'm bigger than this. And if I stay inside of this box, inside this perimeter, right, I will never reach my full capacity and potential in life, because I have allowed myself, to be governed, in a, a hole, a place, and says you can't grow. But there's somewhere they tell that enlarging the territory, to get bigger, you should always have a desire to become. And to become means you must expand. You must have a desire, to see what's in you, right? Move more to places than where you are. It has to, just go. Ah. And then you can hear somebody in another state, 5 states over, saying something that you have said, right? And then you say, yeah, that's flowing and ebbing, honey. That's knowing who you are. And then people begin to speak what you're speaking and begin to do what you're doing, because they are touching and agreeing with you all over, and that's when you realize that you were not meant to be captured. You were meant to be free to be you. Isn't it good? And so, when, just like the young boys, I mean, let them be free, doing what they know, and what they know may not agree to with you based on where you came from, but where they came from. This is what they're supposed to be doing, and what you're meant to do. Don't let nobody freeze you up, honey. Don't let nobody tell you that. Yeah, oh no, no. Well, I mean, I don't think. Well, honey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't work for you. You're right, but it's not you doing this. It's me, and you need and me needs to be free. You know, so be free being you, right? Don't allow somebody else to tell you what you can and cannot do with the gifts, the calls, the presentation, the power, the flow, you know, the anointing that you possess, and just being you. Because somebody's waiting for you to come into their life and boom it. Since I met you, my life has boomed. Since you came here, everything seems to move. Since you done this, I see this, that's who you are. You're the person that they said the party doesn't start until you get there. You're the one they say, well, we didn't know we were doing it until so and so showed up, and then they show up. Now some people would acknowledge you for what your gift is, your power, right? Some people won't. But it's okay because they still know. They know who you are. They know that you have the ability to take nothing and make something out of it. You have the ability to change things from out of its original state, to its glamorous place, right? That's what you do, right? You can take something that's broken and you can put it together, and somebody else say, where's that thing that I laid over here? Oh, that's it right there. No, no, I mean that thing right there. That's it. No, it was all broken up. I know, but that's it there. That's what you do. You can come in and change something. Somebody say, well, they want eggs and potatoes. But by the time you make those eggs and potatoes, it would never taste like somebody else who made it because you put something in there that they didn't understand. And that is you. You put you in there, and you're full of love. You're full of light. And they will feel that love and light when they eat their food. That's the truth. That's power. And that's who you are. When you walk into a place, that's power going to that place. That's light going to the place. And so when you walk in, people will recognize you. They recognize your light, recognize your aura, understand, something just moved the room. And that's what you do. You move the room. When you're screaming on the inside, let me out, because you're ready to move a room. You're ready now to be who you were meant to be. You're ready now to unveil. Oh, isn't it nice? It's powerful, honey. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your moments. This is Jenny Oya with Nuggets and Things, and I pray that you have received, the greatness, the goodness of you, because that's who you are. You are just magnificent, and you do awesome things all by yourself, honey. You do this because there's something in you bigger than what's outside of you. It's in you, honey. Break out and just be, let your light forever shine. You be marvelous in everything that you do. Receive, what you are supposed to have. And then don't let nobody stop you from being what you're supposed to be. Okay? This is Jenny Oya. Have an awesome day. Much love to you. Blessings.